Do you trust this computer?
What?
Yeah, we're doing Do You Trust This Computer, Bobby, on this movie show, and now you know. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Well, I hope your computer hasn't taken over yet, but if it has, just keep watching.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Maybe your computer's making you watch this video right now. In that case, good job, computer.
You know what?
I've trained you well.
There's no doubt in my mind that this computer told you to watch this video.
That's right.
With the algorithms. And
Exactly. It's using artificial intelligence. So what we're reviewing today is Do You Trust This Computer, which is a movie by director Chris Payne. You may remember Chris Payne. He co-wrote and directed Revenge of the Electric Car in 2011. But this movie was, I think, funded by Elon Musk partially, because he funded the first week of, you could watch it for free on the interwebs. But it just came out April 5th, so this is, it's only been out for about a month.
Brand new.
I don't know how many people have seen it, but some of our viewers turned us onto it. I think it's a fantastic movie. I think before we get going, we should put our average review right here, so you might know if you want to watch it or not. So that's out of 5, don't forget. All right, so I think we should just jump right into it. If you haven't seen it and you don't want spoilers, the spoiler is that, you know, the computers are taking over. So
Skynet will rule the world.
I think that's, you know,
Exactly.
that's what's going to happen.
You're in a simulation right now. Sorry to break the news to you.
Right. Yeah. This isn't reality.
Not 90%.
Yeah, there was a little too much of the little like futury glitches in this movie for my liking. I feel like they could have maybe left some of that on the cutting room floor, but I can get over that.
Same.
I gotta tell you, I felt like this movie was like trying to squeeze the trailer for all of human history into, you know, and 90 minutes. It's so densely packed that I've watched it 1.5 times. I think, Brent, you watched it, what, 3 times?
3 times. I guess 2.5, because the first time I watched it was so much that my brain shut down. I fell asleep and woke up halfway through it, and I was like, I gotta go back.
It is overload, and I think one of the reasons it's overload is it's talking about something that we have no point of reference for.
Right.
I mean, humans...
like fantasy, science fiction.
Right, exactly. I mean, I think one of the things that Christopher Nolan talked about early on in the film was that Hollywood has inoculated the public, which I thought was a really good way to put it. There's been so many of these scary movies like War Games and 2001 and so forth that we feel like, oh yeah, computers take over. I know that plot. No big deal. Terminator, right?
Right.
Do you guys agree with them, disagree with them? Like, what do you think that you've just been so inoculated that now when futurists talk about this, you're like, been there, heard that, right?
Yeah.
We'll be fine. What's her name? Sarah Connor's gonna save us.
No, that's actually one thing I think Black Mirror's done very well, is kind of like show close enough reality into a close enough future where it is actually kind of like, oh, that could happen.
Yeah, it's a lot more realistic in Black Mirror than like a Terminator
like the
robot,
Matrix or something.
the Matrix or anything
like that. Feels very far off in my mind, and it's like, okay, yeah, I can't picture necessarily humans being born out of like, you know, these robotic like incubators or whatever. But yeah, with stuff like Black Mirror, and you see, you know, a robot drone that's designed to just kill all the enemies, and then you see some of the stuff they're working on today.
Yeah,
like the Boston Robotics stuff. Like that's creepy. And
it really is creepy to see a robot open a door and then a human fight them, and then they continue to open the door. Means that, okay, if you let this out into the wild in just a very short amount of time, it's going to open the door.
Yeah.
Like, we're now, the cat's out of the bag.
I think the creepiest thing in this particular movie with that was, like, the robot that they built that didn't know what its purpose was, and it learned
the one
how
that
to
flops
walk.
around, yeah.
And then you break off its leg, and it still learns how to walk, and it's like, they're just, like, naturally designed to get better in a scary way.
Well, for so long we thought that you programmed a computer by giving it all of your, you know, oh, this is, if he moves there, you move there. But now we've learned, no, just the way you should teach a computer is how a child learns, just by trying. Like, oh, that made a sound. Now I know that, right? And so, and yet they can learn so much faster than humans, and they can learn from all the other computers in the world. Yeah. And I think going back to that point of reference, I have no point of reference for that. I can't picture that, like what it means that when my car drives today that it shares its information with all the other cars. I can't if I came home after driving and I learned something, I could share it with you guys. Like, don't forget on Main Street there's a pothole, and you would know that. But I could not share that with the rest of humanity, and yet now our cars can. And
it goes kind of back to that comparison with, like, if a baby learned how to beat all the Atari games in like an hour, you'd be freaked out. You'd be like,
Right.
take my baby back. But a computer does it, and we're like, oh, cool. Like, yeah, we'd expect that of computers.
I mean, Elon said, when you see the robots running down the street, it's too late. And I think that is the scary part for me, is because I think with humans, that's what we normally do. We wait for the bridge to fall, and then we go, oh my God, the bridge failed. Let's investigate, and let's let's have a congressional hearing, and let's never have that happen again.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I know we're gonna do that. We're gonna have a huge, horrible event, and then we're gonna go, let's never do that again. But by then it'll be too late. There'll be the computers, the robots are running down the street. So how did you guys take this movie? Was it the kind of thing where you're just like, oh, that was kind of fun? Or I don't know. I mean,
stop making AI now. That's how I took this movie. It is going to be the death of humanity. I don't know why it's even necessary for us to do it. Yes, we can help learn, but no, just throw it away. Let's just be humans, okay? That's my take.
Okay.
Brent, you?
yeah, what do you think? I feel like that's definitely one extreme.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is
it is
definitely
an
one extreme. I feel like in certain things I get it, but other things it is really scary. Like with the weapons part of it, like using it for like autonomous weaponry or artificial intelligence with war machines. That is some post-apocalyptic bleep waiting to happen right there.
Nope.
Yeah, I could completely do without all of that stuff. That is really horrifying. But in some of the other areas where we're, like in say like the medical field, we're talking about like training machines where they can like see like every instance of like this type of disease happen and be able to like just tell like what it needs to do and do it perfectly every time. And
did you catch that little bit with the doctor who basically used to do surgeries by hand and then now does computer aided surgeries? And I think he mentioned like kind of quietly off the cuff, like, I only do like one of those a year now. We've gotten to the point now where surgeons are like, I need my computer to do this.
He can't do it without it.
Doesn't want to do it without it. Right. It's better. And, it's better without him, basically, because the computer isn't going to think like, oh, she took, that was a 40-mile drive for her to get here, so I shouldn't, make her come back.
I feel like there's a difference for me between artificial intelligence and like a smart computer. Because do you need artificial intelligence for like a really smart, like conscious computer like brain to do that? I mean, sure, it can help, like if you need to process.
One of the problems is artificial intelligence has really lost kind of value in its meaning.
Yeah.
Because like what someone said in the movie, right, like what people call artificial intelligence is really just a computer that does something that they think is like smart for a computer.
Yeah.
Right. Like you see this in like chess robots back in the day were like called AI, but what they were using was vastly different from what they're doing now in terms of solving Go. Right. And like, before we had machine learning, which is kind of what is the cusp of what AI is now, it was all just kind of programming these sophisticated sort of like conditional statements saying that like, based on these parameters, you're going to want to do this. Whereas now it's more of a statistical analysis based on the inputs that you're reading, right? Like when you get in the data of like image recognition at the basis of it is just pattern recognition with statistics, right? You're looking at things and you use the training data to essentially just take this big equation of regression and apply it to the data that you get and basically, seeing where that fits on the line that you've created or whatever type of mathematical function that you've mapped the situation to. Right, so in that sense.
So I mean, like they were pointing out in the movie, like when you go online to buy an airline ticket, I used to think like, oh, it says that American Airlines is $475. That's the same price Bobby will get. That's the same price Brent will get. No, what they're saying is basically they figured out what Bobby will pay, and it's a different price than what Brent will pay, and they're going to show you two different things. And when I heard that, I was just like, oh my gosh, that's mind blowing. Yeah. Like they know me well enough to know what I'm going to pay.
They know you well enough to think that they can make an educated guess.
Right.
Which is like, I mean,
but it's going to get smarter.
Yeah, that is true. But
it's not intentionally like devious.
One of the issues with AI, I think, is that a lot of people kind of, they say it can do all these things. Companies make big claims about what their AI can do. But one of the hard things about these probabilistic, in nature probabilistic machines is that it's hard to check and see if they're actually right. Like with one of the things that specifically bothered me about this movie was when they focused on the emotion sensing AI, because if you looked at that was basically they were using, for the most part, like in the kid demo, they were like, oh, smile if you're happy, frown if you're sad. And I saw a TED Talk a few weeks ago that was basically getting into why that kind of basic assumption on, like the essence of emotion is very different per person based on the experiences that they've had in their life. So one person is going to express emotion very, very differently
So
from
someone might
someone else.
smile if they're trying to hide their...
Right, exactly. And so that was one of the ways that, like, these AI systems that people have created, they say, oh, these predict emotions or, like, sense what emotion you're feeling. And that might be true for a large number of people, but there isn't a great way to check it for everyone.
Yeah.
Except that the amount of data, so they were talking in the movie about how in 2012 we each generated about 500 megabytes of data, which if you put it on double-sided, per day, if you put it on double-sided sheets of paper, 12-point font, and stack them up, it would go to the sun and back 4 times, like to give you some idea of how much data we're generating. And so that's just 2012. So I mean, you're assuming that this kind of emotion stuff is not that good maybe, and it's going to take a long time to get it better. My thought is, at the rate we're going, they're going to get better and better at it faster and faster.
I don't necessarily think with emotions that it's that they're not there yet. I think that there might be there are some things that computers can't do. And I think
I think you.
No, there are definitely some things. It is
yet.
So it is
you
provably
put the word "yet" on there.
It is mathematically provably impossible that a computer cannot double check that 2 functions do the exact same thing. Because essentially, to do that, you have to run every single possible input, which is what in computer science is called an undecidable problem.
Okay.
And so an undecidable problem is essentially there's no guarantee that the program that you use to determine whether or not that's true or false is actually going to stop. And so in that respect, so there are limitations to computers, and I think that's something that people. That was certainly something that before I went into school, school for computer science, that was something that wasn't as clear as it is now. Like,
okay, but I just want to point out that in 1933, the smartest minds in nuclear physics said you could never have nuclear energy.
But there was the thing with computers is it's so heavily, like, the foundations are in mathematics, and basically, well, I guess here's a better way to rephrase it. The current model of computation, which is essentially boils down to this thing called a Turing machine, which you can take any computer that we have and boil it down to some sort of Turing machine.
Why you just define that for our viewers, just in case they don't know?
So a Turing machine is basically you have a tape, right? And this tape has an input, and you can go back and forth on the input, and you can overwrite the input. And so this has been largely since 1950 or so the model of computation that we've been running off of in computing. And so every computer you have is a glorified Turing machine, essentially. They've done things to make them faster. If you put more tapes on them, they get faster. But every single computer can only do what a Turing machine can do. And so with that, there have been mathematical proofs that basically show that there are some things that you just can't do on a computer.
Okay, but let's talk about superintelligence, because superintelligence is basically being able to use computers to simulate brains and to go beyond what our brain can do. I mean, as we talked about before, I cannot communicate everything I just learned today with the entire world, but a supercomputer can, in essence, do that. So what a lot of these people in the movie were talking about is that we're moving into superintelligence, that at some point that is going to happen. And we have no point of reference for that. We have no idea what that really means. And to your point, Bobby, like, can you stop it once you've started it? Like, will it allow you to shut it off, kind of thing? And so that to me was the mind-blowing thought in this. It wasn't just AI. I kind of understand AI. We've been talking about autonomous cars and neural networks. I understand that. But superintelligence, that was the part where I was just like what? And I'm not exactly afraid of it, because I don't think there's any way to stop it. See, like, you're thinking like, oh, we've learned that something bad's going to happen. Let's all stop doing it. I don't think we can, like, at this point. So
unless we destroy all technology as we know it.
Yeah, but we know through human...
Back to tribal living.
Yes.
Yeah, but see, we know through human existence, there have been periods where we've kind of done that, gone backwards. But unless we destroy ourselves, which could happen, then we're going to... Technology is going to continue. So I think there's a pretty good chance we're going to go into this world of superintelligence. And I think that's scary, because now we're talking like we're cats or something.
Yeah.
And now there's going to be this new thing called humans. And how do we fit in with this new superintelligent humans when we're just cats?
Yeah.
And so, it's
Stop right now. I don't want to be a cat.
right. So you want to stop humans from becoming the next thing. Like if humans were just starting to evolve and we were some, lions out in the savannas, you'd be like, let's stop the humans. That's what you want to do.
I guess. I mean, I could see the argument that cats and dogs have benefited off of humans.
Well, I mean,
Because
right.
they've learned
It's
to
pretty
live
nice.
with them.
It's a pretty nice life for most cats. Don't have to worry about getting
Right.
fed. You get to watch TV. Some of them even control the remote.
I feel like it's just kind of tough because I feel like there's something so raw about humanity, and obviously, like artificial intelligence.
Are we so
is
good
natural.
though? Well, like I was starting to think, like we have so many problems with humans.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of nice ones that I like, but there's a lot of humans that aren't so great, right? That do horrible things, and the world is full of pain and suffering. Superintelligence seems like it's probably going to lead to a lot less suffering because it's going to be far more efficient. I don't know. It just seems like there's a good chance it could lead to some pretty awesome stuff.
What if like an artificial intelligence supercomputer that had control of like nuclear, arms decided there's so much pain and suffering. It would be so much easier and more peaceful if everyone was just dead.
It kind of reminds me of the quote that Elon had in this documentary where it's like, an AI doesn't view, like, say if you're building a road
Right.
and there's an anthill in the way, we don't think, but the anthill, we can't hurt the anthill.
Right.
We just think, we need a road here, so let's just not.
But I mean, let's talk
doesn't have
about
compassion.
Ray Kurzweil was saying that we're going to be able to do away with aging because we'll be able to
Right.
figure out what causes it and stop it. So I mean, you're right about the building a road anthill analogy, but there's also, it sounds like, all these wonderful things that can happen. So that's why I'm like,
It's a tricky.
That's why I wish this thing was a series and not just 1 hour, 15-minute movie, because there's so much to chew on here.
let's talk right here to Christopher Nolan if you're watching. Like, I mean, Westworld, awesome. You're addressing a lot of these questions, but like, I feel like this should be a series, and beyond. Like, it should really start delving into. This is a topic that we need to be learning more about. And I think one of the problems is there's a bunch of people in the world working on this, right?
Yeah.
But no one person. Like, I used to think like, oh, smart people like Elon, he can just figure out AI. No. Everyone's working on their own little piece of the puzzle, and I don't think anyone actually is looking down at it going like, oh, this is what's happening, or at least very few people in the world. I think we need more of us to be looking down on this from a bigger picture perspective, not necessarily computer wizards, but people who are just kind of looking down and going like, oh, I
Let's
see.
make an AI who can watch.
Who can watch the
AI.
AI? Well, maybe Elon's working on that. I mean, maybe that's what we need, is a smart AI that's controlling the AI. I don't know.
AI check and balance.
But I think if more of us humans knew that this was going on, and this is kind of a plea, I think this movie should be in schools. I think high schoolers really would get a lot out of it, because this is the world they're going into.
Yeah.
It might shape where they want to go and what field they want to go into. I mean, I think a lot of people, when they think computer science, at least in the past couple of years, I think have thought like programming an app. But I mean, it's like, this is bigger than all that. Like,
You're playing God here. I mean,
Yeah.
at some point, it's crazy to me. And I think what's a really good movie that kind of like shows the what could be with this whole situation. I don't know if you've ever seen the artificial intelligence movie.
the Steven Spielberg.
AI
that
or
one,
whatever.
AI.
Yes.
And at the end of the movie, you go so far into the future that
Don't spoil it. Don't spoil it.
Spoiler alert for AI.
20 years ago when it came out, whatever.
Spoiler for AI.
Spoiler alert. When at the end of the movie, when the like almost organic robots come back and they're trying to figure out their origins and like find human remains because we're sort of like the ones who created them. I just think that's an interesting, way of looking into the future about it. It's like, what if someday we're gone and these things are still here, traveling across the universe? They've got time that we don't have, And so it is interesting in that respect. And I think that there are some really cool things that could come out of it. But in my opinion, I say we shut it down. I don't want to die.
All right. Well, as we're wrapping this up, I just want to talk about the actual film, how they built this film. So there was really no narrator. It was all told by different experts, kind of moving the story along, which I thought was pretty interesting to have no narrator. How did you guys feel about just having basically these experts and professors kind of walk us through the argument?
I think that led to a very unstructured film. And that was that took away from, for me, it felt like you were jumping from, the whole thing was like AI, scary, and then like it was basically here's why, completely unrelated reasons through really cheesy transitions, I'd say.
Oh, the transitions, don't even get me started.
And so like in that respect, I think for me, I kind of, had some information on a lot of what was like in there. Like I've been up to date on like a lot of the Boston Dynamics stuff, and some of the Google Brain stuff. So like some of it was kind of...
Do you think it was kind of cheap shot-ish? Like that they were just showing you a few seconds of a robot opening a door and that...
I think it was designed to scare people. I think that there's a lot going on behind that maybe, because they did show the best parts of AI that are right now, right? It's like when you show a product demo where you... Because that's largely what those were, where you just show the things that work and you don't show the problems that you're having. But like I know with Boston Dynamics, those robots are crazy, like... They do awesome things, but they screw up all the time, and they break those robots a lot.
I mean, there's a reason there's only like 3 videos on their YouTube channel of them working and thousands of videos of them failing.
But I mean,
it's gonna grow quick.
Do you think it's a bad thing that they were trying to scare us?
I don't know if it was a bad thing. It irritated me as a computer scientist, but just because I don't want people to be like, shut it down. Like that's like not what I want. Yeah, but like I don't want another Bobby. I don't want a ton of Bobbies.
Well, I guess that's so. I mean, let's get to the rating of the movie. I mean, I was disappointed that it left it so negative. Like, do you trust this computer? I mean, if it was doing it to just raise a question in our awareness and to make us want to keep learning, then great. But if it was making you go like, oh no, I should stop using a computer and be a Luddite, then no, I don't. So yeah, I mean, I'm gonna give it 4.5 Watsons, and I mean, yes, the movie had some cheesy points to it. I didn't like the man on the street kind of interviews because I thought those were just very cheap
they didn't
ways.
Really add anything.
Very Jimmy Kimmel-ish.
Yeah, didn't. I mean, it was such a smart thing, and then to ask someone at a beach what they think, I don't know. I would have liked way better filler shots. There was a lot of just kind of what we use in the industry or just like transition roll, B-roll kind of stuff, and it would have been nice if it was more stuff that they had shot themselves, I felt.
Yeah, we found a lot of videos from the website that we use,
right.
actually.
So I really loved hearing from Christopher Nolan and, Tegmark from MIT and Elon Musk. I mean, for that's why it's getting the big ratings and just the breadth of what it covered. So for me, 4.5 IBM Watsons is what I'm giving it. How about you, Nick?
I'm going to go with probably 3 out of 5 low-key sex robots. Like those robots weren't technically sex robots, but it kind of felt like he was like, I crafted it to my perfect specifications.
He was a little too into her.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't know how. I'm suspicious. I'm very suspicious of this.
I'm going to be making some upgrades.
And then he also made one of himself, which I was like, okay, that's kind of why. Overall, like the topic was a little more negative than I would have liked, but besides from my own personal biases, I think that the transitions were just a little rough, and some of the interviews were just kind of poorly done, like the ones on the street. Some of the ones I think they gave, like, maybe they didn't take... I don't know if they took the best parts of the interview. They did take the most, I think, parts that would appeal to the audience, but they talked to some smart people, and I think they might have cut them out of context in places.
Probably.
All right, so I am going to go 3.5 out of 5 Ex Machinas, because that's a good movie. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's like one of the best artificial intelligence movies.
I appreciate it.
From recent history.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. The main reason why I'm rating it a little bit lower, I've said this a couple times today, is just there's so much. There's so much, and I felt like nothing got enough time. And I really wish they like expanded this into maybe like 2-part movie or like a 4-part series.
movie.
Something to give more time to, because there were so many things where I was starting to get interested. I'm like, oh wow, this is crazy. And then it was like on to the next thing. I'm like, oh wait. Like I said, I literally watched it 3 times because the first 2 times I watched it, I felt like I still didn't remember everything I just saw. So I just kept rewatching it. I think there's a lot of valuable stuff in here. Like I love seeing, Elon and like all the different experts and everything. There's a lot of really good stuff in here. Just they need to do more with this. Yes. So that's the only reason why I'm like rating it slightly lower. So I'm gonna go 3.5.
Okay.
Bobby?
I'm gonna go 3 Corruptors.
Corruptors.
From
Horizon
Zero Dawn.
The more Horizon Zero Dawn references.
Yeah.
Just keep shoehorning
That's the
them in.
robot in the game that was created.
If you watch
the
the game,
AI
quickly
took
show.
over and
Yes.
killed the humans.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. But anyway.
You find that out pretty quickly.
So the reason I give it a 3 is I really liked it in the same ways that Brent liked it. Like Elon, it was great to see Elon in there, and I loved like those like philosophical questions that are brought up with artificial intelligence. I guess going back to sort of my like thing that maybe would kind of bother Nick here. For me, it's not creating different ways of AI that can help, like artificially intelligent systems that can help speed along research and stuff. For me, it's like, why do we have to create consciousness? That's my problem. It's like, I don't understand why there needs to be a conscious being like that. It's like, what's the point?
You know, I think you might overestimate how many people are actually working on that. There's not.
Well, I hope not.
Most people are focused at this point. Like the idea of a consciousness is I'd say generally more of a general super intelligence, and that more of what we're doing now is kind of narrow intelligence and kind of perfecting.
Sort of more what I was talking about.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So like we're focusing on like image recognition to make sure that we can or just like detect cancer before a regular person could actually see it.
Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I guess that's a good point to wrap up. We definitely want your comments below on whether you like this movie, whether you think that we should do some more movies like this, because we got a lot more in the pipeline.
I think we should do these in hot tubs.
Ooh.
We have to do these in hot tubs.
I like that.
We got to be like Elon and his brother. They don't go in hot tubs and talk about AI. We should.
I love that idea. If you think we should be in hot tubs, first of all, send us a location, and we'll definitely do that.
That'll be the next Patreon perk. Buy us a
Ooh.
hot tub. I don't know that idea.
Or host our movie show at your hot tub.
Yeah, I like that.
Cool. Anyway.
It has to be a quiet hot tub, though.
Also, you have to provide food. And vegan food.
Vegan food.
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Now you know. Thanks so much for watching Now You Know. We work hard to bring you videos about things that we think you'll find useful, but we need to know from you what you want to see, so leave your comments below. Also, don't forget to go over to our Patreon page, where for as little as $1 a month, you can watch our Patreon bonus story every week on Tesla Time News. Thanks again. We'll see you soon.